Hello, everyone. Very nice to see that house that packed. Warm welcome to the Amanpour. A warm welcome also to Berlinale Talents. A warm welcome for you to meet all filmmakers who are next to you. So I promised myself to give and remind all audiences this year that always also the talents are with you. And these talents are our 203 filmmakers coming actually from 68 different countries to be with us here in Berlin, to create community, and also, of course, to connect with those whom we call the Berliners. And for those, it's very much Berlin in the moment, but for us, Berlinale Talents is also a network around the world. And we have different, we say, offshoots around the globe in different locations like Buenos Aires, Guadalajara, and there's one that is very dear to us, which is in Sarajevo. And for now 16 editions, and this year for the 17th edition, we are going to Sarajevo, but more or less we are receiving wonderful inspiration and also networking down at the Talents Sarajevo, which is part of the Sarajevo Film Festival. And in that respect, and also in other respects between the Berlinale and Sarajevo Film Festival, there's a lot that we share, that we have in common, probably even in between the two cities. And in this sense, this session here today is very dear to us. It's very, very important, and I'm very, very happy that you join us here today. And I'm joined with someone who knows everything about that. It's Dorothy Vanner, a curator, filmmaker, and also someone who has been with us for a long time. Dorothy, thank you very much for taking over the moderation.
Thank you very much.
Here you go.
Welcome. Thank you, Florian, for this invitation that makes me blush. I don't know everything, of course not, but I am very happy to welcome our guests, the people who have made the documentary Kiss the Future, behind the camera and in front of the camera. Please welcome the director, Nena Shine. Bill Carter, Vesna and Senad Zaimovic, Alma Katal, and Ines Schlater. Can you sit over there? Kiss the Future. This is a big topic, the title of the film, but also a quotation from a documentary that takes everyone who sees it back to Sarajevo into a time of a concert that is 26 years ago, but it is also an extremely timely and contemporary movie. And I thought, because I would assume that hardly anyone has seen the film, as it will have its world premiere tonight, we would start with a scene from the very ending of the film of a concert in which U2 Bono plays an important role, just to give you an idea of the atmosphere of what this film is about and where it leads to. So can we please see the first clip? 50,000 people came to this concert, and we meet some people in the film who say this was a life-changing concert. This was such a big thing that U2 came shortly after the Dayton Agreement to Sarajevo with a story. Yes, it's a documentary, but it might be also called a fairy tale, for which some people who are with us today are in charge of making this fairy tale possible. We will come to that. When I had the chance of seeing the film first, I thought, this goes back, this is a period film. This is such a long time ago that some of the people who will come to see the film were not yet even born, and yet it's a completely timely film today. So I kept thinking about why it was, and I have the suspicion it's not by chance, but you, as a director, worked very, very hard on making this film, a very contemporary film. What was important for you? Why did you make the film today, now, and not maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, I didn't have a relationship with Matt Damon and access to U2 5, 10 years ago, so I don't know if this is working or not.
Yes,
it is. So there's certain variables that happen over the course as a filmmaker that present themselves that weren't there before, and you have, for me, I have a number of stories I'm always working on, and then you hope that some piece will fall into place. And the piece there's several things that happened. One was, I'm from there. I have a Serbian mother, a Croatian father, an Albanian wife. I was born in Slovenia. And we joke around that we should have named our son Balkan, but so we are the last remaining vestiges of what was once Yugoslavia, I kind of feel. So this was a story that was very important to me for my children to understand what had happened. And I did a project with Matt Damon where I wrote a script for him and Ben Affleck. And in the process of writing it, he told me that relationship he had with Bono, a beautiful story that Bono told him. And I said, there's access now to Bono, because I knew of the concert. I wasn't at the concert, but I found the concert to be such a powerful way to talk about unity. And the danger in telling a story like this is, at the end of the day, it's a genocide. So how do you make a genocide accessible? How do you get people to even want to see it or watch it? And the concert was a way to do that. And so I asked Matt if he would ask Bono, and I started researching different stories, and I came across Bill Carter's story, which is this extraordinary story that I'll let him tell you firsthand because I don't want to ruin it, but just the broad strokes of it. He was working as an aid worker in Sarajevo, and he had the idea to interview the band, and he became this catalyst for all these different pieces to come together. So Matt came on board, and Bill came on board, and then the band gave us access to this archive. And what you guys saw, there's some very interesting things that happen at this concert that don't happen at most concerts, and they happen after this. And the band was so protective of this archive ever making it out into the world. I heard there was many people that asked, and they never wanted to put it out because they didn't want the attention to be about them. They always wanted it to be about the Sarajevans. But the approach that we had was about a collective memory, about many different people's points of view, about this moment in history, and how people used art and music as a form of rebellion and survival, and U2 as activism. So, the biggest catalyst became where it had an urgency, and I think the reason Matt Damon and Ben Affleck came on board was in the United States, where I live now, it's very polarized. Nationalism is on the rise, and it was a way to talk about what's happening in the United States without talking about what's happening in the United States, or what's happening in Italy, or what's happening in, wherever nationalism is rearing its head. So these are the kind of ideas and things that transpired to have the fortune to be able to tell this story.
Thank you very much. Towards the end of the film, we see quite a few sequences in which you make a connection to other ongoing conflicts currently in the world. But maybe before going deeper into this aspect, I would like to ask Bill Carter, Nenad just said, well, he was an aid worker then in Sarajevo. In the film, you describe yourself, who is this guy roaming around Sarajevo? By now, you're an established filmmaker yourself. I wanted to know from you, even though the story is told in the film, and we get to understand how you first got there with your action street activist group, serious road trip. If you would share with us, when you made this film, how did you look back? What were the moments in your life and career that made you courageous enough to write a very important facts?
What are those, looking back, I think that there's several things that in my life that made me probably capable of thinking I could pull this off, which was, one is I had not much to lose when I was in Sarajevo. You know, I had circumstances in my life of losing someone I loved, and when I went to Sarajevo, I was kind of a damaged goods, and I left. I went to Sarajevo with $200, no way home, no ticket, so I didn't have a plan. So when I joined the road trip, which was this amazing group of aid workers, they were dressed as a circus. It just seemed like the right place to be with them. And then I met basically not just these people, but a lot of people that are Bosnians. There's some of them in the audience right now, and some of them are back home in Sarajevo. And I just was talking about this recently, where I was there for 2 weeks, and you're delivering food. You're watching bad things happen, and you don't want to be part of that watching people. That's a very ugly thing to do in this life. So I was going to leave, and then I met people. The interaction became personal. And once that interaction became personal, I was doomed, because I just fell deeply in love with them as a people, how they were laughing, how they were, you know, doing these small gestures of humanity. It was so overwhelming that I couldn't leave. And then I had that big problem, is how do I help? Not just food, but like a bigger help, which was actually to get them heard. That was because they were amazing. I wanted to get them heard to a European audience. So that's why I thought, well, I'll just write you too. The problem was, there's a lot of, you can ask this question if you want to, there's a lot of steps to get that to happen, but I just figured U2 is a very unique band, right? They're Irish, which means they are very familiar with bullies. They've been living with them hundreds of years. And since this was really a bullying situation, I thought they would connect to that. I thought they would connect to that to their own, the war and, you know, the troubles. And also their music, I grew up with it, so I heard, you know, you have a little taste for their spiritualness almost, and I thought, well, they're going to have to react. So that's, I think combining all those things is the reason I thought I could maybe get them to pay attention.
Did you notice he said back home in Sarajevo, this man roaming around in Sarajevo? I would suggest we take another look at what it felt like and how you portrayed this very moment of, oh, I've got this idea in the film. So can we please see the second clip, please?
Fuck you, Bill. Go outside. There he is.
Can I say something about Sinhead? Can I say something? Or do you want to say something first?
No, please go ahead.
And this exists in all of these people, is that their ability to tell you to fuck off is part of their strength. Because they don't want you to fool with them in that time. You don't have time for you to mess with them. So like if you can't pull your dream off here, then go away. So and I honored that. I took it as a challenge. I've always honored that about all of them, maybe especially that guy, because he really put me to the test.
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh, Michael,
Yeah.
it's working. Let's see the context. It's the second year of the war. It's, let's say, April or May, 93. And we were so exhausted because it was months of shelling, dying in the city. We thought at the time that somebody from the international community will see what's happened in Sarajevo. There is satellite dishes uplink news programs like CNN globally, but we have no support. And in the 2nd year, we don't like to believe the foreigners. And that time, I thought that Bill came to die in Sarajevo with us, but like spam, sarcastic, plastic American, And that's the reason that we have that duel. When I was editor-in-chief on TV Bosnia and Herzegovina, around 500 shows every day, 3 hours program. And the program name is War Art. And whole capacity of TV station, like cameras, tapes, was in a news program, not for the others. And we always try to pick up camera, to pick up some tapes, to make some programs. And we were so angry on everybody. And that's the reason that we have some kind of conflict, of dilemma, and a lot of discuss during the time when he organized the link with the concert of U2, because we set up the satellite dish and have like 12 or 30 concerts from people from Sarajevo directly on the big screen on the U2 concert that year. But we have dilemma about morality. Is it moral to be the part of the show from the besieged city? Today, I found out that U2, as maybe one of the biggest rock and roll band in history, gave the citizens of Sarajevo a platform to communicate with the people like you, like young people, to show the message that we are the same, we are share the same values, that we are European, as many of you. And that was the both sides, let's say, our interest, not just to be first news. Today, we have 30 years after, the same situation, the same rhetorics, and citizens of Sarajevo very well knows, even they are not there in Ukraine, what's happened really. And that time, 30 years ago, we were like test market for something huge. And it's, this movie is important, and I think the documentary came in the right moment to be a warning sign for all of us. Yeah, we started making a film about the end of the last war in Europe, and then war in Europe broke out. So we didn't make the film after the Ukraine invasion. We started making the film before the Ukraine invasion, never imagining that this could happen in modern time.
Yeah, that is in fact extremely interesting. I mean, it couldn't have been. You couldn't have made this film from February till now. Maybe you could have. I don't know how fast you work, but unlikely that a film of this size can be made in such pace between February and now.
Yeah, that's right.
But I wanted I wanted to thank Senat for this description of how you see and where you place the film, but maybe extending to Vesna also. Both of you are always à deux in the film, so we also learn a bit of your private life. But I wanted to ask you, this time gap of 30 years, is there also a danger of romanticizing the good old days? And, you know, the storyline in itself, and you said this before, how can we make people interested in learning about what happened then in Sarajevo? I find that both of you have like this always critical observation of yourself and what were you doing then. And when you look at the documentary, which role can Sarajevo play with this respect when it comes to looking at the specifics of the city then and now?
So speaking about romance and romanticism, I think this, when we speak about war, usually we speak about the casualties, about the victims, about numbers, hundreds, thousands, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this is horrible, and the volume of contemporary wars is the global disaster. But if we see just one person in a war, then we explore a new world, then we explore the personal story, the whole new world of someone's life, someone's connection, someone's love, people who that person love, etc., etc. And you as a film talents and film persons, usually you know how important it is to attach to a human story, because every victim or every survivor from the war is a human with his or her story. And this is how I see also our role in this movie, because our love story from the time of the siege is not something unique, but it was something that happened everywhere. Because regardless of the war or peace, people fall in love one to each other. Regardless of the war or peace, people like to do art or music or films. We are humans. And in that sense, we do not allow any foreign or any external circumstance to ruin, to destroy our humanity. And this is why I think that our viewership to Sarajevo that time is not romanticizing Sarajevo, but it is something that really happened to us. Because if you ask me how I felt in the first days or months of the siege, I would say I was in love. So my first emotion was that I was crazy in love. And my second emotion was that some circumstances around me were pushing me to abound my love, but to just think about how to survive. And this is why we use so many other tools, so many other weapons than the real weapon, like art, like music, like our professions, to make Sarajevo easier survive.
I think one of the misconceptions people have about war is the state of humanity. And you know, what we learned from this film was that even in the darkest of times, those who played music, made art, and helped others didn't just survive, they thrived. And what happens in the telling of the story is that people need purpose. There has to be purpose, and people need to feel human. And even in the darkest of times, the most beautiful humanity emerges. And so there's that in our movie. We show people the worst of human nature next to the greatest of human nature. And that's what they represented. And the thing that's also extraordinary, and you can tell quickly by Vesna's composure and the way she speaks, is the women in our film are very strong. It's incredible how in war people don't realize that it's really women that lead the way and keep things together.
Yeah. Anna Slater is a very important protagonist in the film, and if I may say so, even a more important protagonist you were at the time of the siege. Vocalist, band leader of a band called Sikta, which is quite impressive from what I got to know from, so possibly the most known Bosnian punk alternative band.
I don't know about that. Does it
Well,
yeah. I don't know.
you
about
seem
that.
to have fans here, so.
We're old guys now, but we still play. So it's good.
What I would like to know from you, you are describing very much the necessity of playing music, something that you just explained. So how to survive the war is not only getting water and bread, but you need something for your mind to survive. This is what you so beautifully explain in the film in various ways. My question, however, is you struck me as someone completely fearless when it comes to your background, from a rather local context, and fearless when it comes to cooperating or seeing yourself in a context that is so large that some people would say shy away and oh no, let this pass. You are quite a hero in that sense, I think, and I wanted you to explain how important you think this special courage is for artists like yourself.
Can I ask a question? Should we show some of the footage with him in it before he explains so they have context?
Yeah,
Or
maybe.
It's your panel, I don't want to, sorry.
Maybe,
The
so I don't
director is
repeat
coming out.
the same thing, maybe, huh?
That's
Do
a
you
little
think?
bit of a problem because we have to prepare the clips,
okay.
and
Okay,
we don't have a
okay.
clip with him. So I'm sorry, but I hope this is also an encouragement for all of you to go see the films, hoping you get tickets. I know it's sold out, 3 shows coming at Verti, but I'm sure there are ways of later.
No, this is all a trick to get people to see it.
Okay. So try your luck and try to get tickets for the shows tonight and the next days. But now, please.
Okay. Well, I don't see that as courage. I just see it as, as something normal, I go on stage all the time. So for me, it was not a big deal, But on the other hand, it's you too. It's your town. It's your people. And you start your show with the band national anthem of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it was different.
Let me just give context for this because you haven't seen it. So the film opens after we set up what caused the war with the underground music scene in Sarajevo and how the music scene was thriving and they were performing the Hera musical every day and they would go underground into with playing off a generator and there'd be a packed club and they were running through sniper zones to get to go and see music. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. And he was one of the bands that is in the beginning of the film of the local scene. And what he explains is the reason they started playing music was to have purpose, to feel human, to feel normal, and they were punk rock. And then U2 chose them to be the opening act for their concert of 40,000 plus people. So we follow Enos's journey from first starting as a fireman, as a young man, to becoming a musician, to becoming quite influential as a musician, to becoming the opening act for the biggest band in the world at the time. So that's when she explains that you're really a hero of the journey. We get to tell the story from a very personal artist point of view from the beginning, earlier parts of the war through to the end of the war.
Yeah.
So sorry, Enos.
Yeah, no. I mean, you said it very well, so. But I can tell you, I mean, I talk about this in the movies, so I don't know if you want me to explain
Yes,
it,
please, because nobody has seen the film.
But yeah, I mean, I did music for fun before the war, you know. It was kind of a hobby, you know. And then during the war, I really felt the need to say something. But I was wrong, you know. I had this misconception that I was saying something important and that some people would hear this and then they would say, aha, look, what is this guy saying, you know. We should maybe change things. No, nobody will change anything. So I don't think that music can change anything. But it did a very important thing for us. It teleported us for those 2 hours while we had the gig. It could teleport us somewhere else, you know, because for those 2 hours, when the owners of the Club Obala, they would get some petrol because there was no electricity, they would get some petrol and they would call us and tell us, we got some petrol, let's have a gig tonight, and then we would come and people would come and for those 2 hours we felt like we were in Berlin or New York or wherever. So it was kind of a teleport, just to escape the horrible reality. So that's what music did during the war.
And his drummer lost his hand on the front line, and he then put tape around a drumstick and kept playing music without a hand, drumming in his band without a hand.
He lives in New York now and he still plays music with duct tape.
And maybe for us who were, let's say, peers of that time, living together in a besieged city, I should mention that all of us has some kind of role regarding the war. That means Senad was editor of the War Art daily program. Anas Bure from the band, he was a fireman, dealing with the real fires, in the real fights, in the real war. I was a journalist fixer for a foreign journalistic crews. I was working with them. So every day we literally risking our lives, not because we wanted to, but it was our purpose in a war, regarding the war. But after that, after 5 o'clock, so we need something to some kind of illusion that we continue to living our normal lives, because we were young, you know, we were full of life. We just wanted to live, and we knew what is Europe. We knew what is outside of Sarajevo, because all of us used to travel all around before the war, because Yugoslavia was at the last years or at the last days of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a very successful country, allowing us, Yugoslavians, to be part of Europe, of course. And what we used to do after 5 o'clock, after dealing with war, of course, we used to be normal. We used to listen to rock and roll. And when he and his band played to us in some underground clubs, in some basements of Sarajevo, you're right. For us, it was something like, oh, we are in Berlin now. Let's dance and let's sing and let's behave as it is our last day or last night.
Yeah, and the best thing about war, if you ever find yourself in a war situation, so that you know, the best thing about the war, there was no planning.
Yeah.
You don't plan anything. You always live like it's your last day on earth, and it's a great thing.
I think one of the things that people don't know about Sarajevo and the context of which they were living, some do, some don't, is so Sarajevo was surrounded on all sides by snipers and tanks. They had no food, no water, no electricity,
No
and
gas.
Anywhere they went, they had to run through sniper zones. So the idea that you can't eat and you can't drink and you're scavenging and you're relying on each other helping you get through that time, to then run through a sniper area to go get together with friends and play music, or Vesna did performances for children, or the symphony, or, you know, in the film we focused on the music because it was the link to U2, and the film is heavily weighted on the music, and there's also President Clinton and Christiane Amanpour, the journalist's point of view. But the conditions that they were living are still not being experienced in Ukraine. And I don't mean to compare horror to horror, but it's quite extraordinary the humanity they found in the darkness.
I have some data about the siege. May I
Yes,
just,
please.
are you interested in the numbers, in the figures?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the siege lasts 3 years, 10 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. And under the siege, there were almost 500,000 of people. During this period of siege, the 50,000 tons of bombs and the 500,000 different projectiles, different rockets, fell to the city. That means 300 to 29, that means 3 to 9 bombs per day in average. That means, 3 to 9 per day. That means few grenades per hour. I don't know how much. There were about the casualties, about the victims. 1,601 children died. 14,000 of children wounded. Then 11,541 civilian killed during the siege. And for me, something which is really like depicting figure is that 40% of Sarajevo children has immediate experience of sniper shooting. That means I also have, all of us have this immediate experience. That means that you are running and you see sniper bullets around you. That means that the sniper is hitting on you. So you can imagine that 40% of Sarajevo children who survived the siege has this immediate experience. This is why all of us still suffer, more or less, from this state of mind, which is PTSD, that means post-traumatic stress disorder. Some consequences of it is that we refuse to speak about the siege, generally. We didn't want to speak about it. When someone asks me, I say, oh yeah, that's a really difficult story, but please don't bother me. Let's speak about something else. But when these guys came to Sarajevo with their crazy idea to make a movie about our experience, that means all of us, Alma, Bure, Sena, Dai, and other people, they just triggered our PTSD. And we started to be very emotional. And believe me, for me personally, it was so stressful, so emotional, that after the filming in Sarajevo, I really felt too bad. I really felt sick of all of it. So just to illustrate how strong and how powerful is that impact of war to a normal human person.
Can I introduce Alma real quick?
That's what I was just about to do, but you...
So, Bill, do you want to explain who Alma was? And
Well, how are you going to introduce it?
Well,
let's see,
Alma,
maybe I should... This.
Up to you.
No.
You know, my question to Alma would be, you were much younger at the time.
Yes, I was only 12 when the war broke out in Sarajevo.
Alma, of course, is in the film, but she was also in another film that Bill shot, Miss Sarajevo, 1995 it was, I think. So my question to Alma, given with all what these slightly elder persons have said about this experience, maybe you want to share from your point of view, given that you were a child, basically, when the siege happened, and how did you overcome, as a child, this complete distrust in the person next to you, which, Sarajevo, for me, I've never been, unfortunately, to Sarajevo, but what the city stands for is, on the one hand, this glorious city of diversity, and on the other hand, a city where really everyone distrusts everyone, like, this way of you can't have a proper friendship. Now, obviously, this is something that the two of you have in common, Bill and Alma, and I wanted you to talk about friendship and the necessity of friendship to survive war or a siege.
Well, I cannot beautify the story how we met because it's out there. My first contact with Bill was me throwing rocks at him and calling him names. So, but I'm going to give the background story. When you're a child and you're a 12-year-old kid, all the things that you worry about are, you know, math homework and falling in and out of love and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you have the war that crushes your world, and you need to deal with some other things, like whether you're going to wake up to see your parents and your family and your friends. And then you see a lot of foreigners around who come and go, which is, well, obviously it's not a happy place to be. And we all thought that, you know, I thought that Bill was just another guy, you know, who will be there for a second and then leave, because everyone was just, we were abandoned for quite a lot of time. And then my first contact, obviously, my friends and myself, we needed, like you guys said, we needed something else. We created our own world. In the horror of war, we had to create our own world where we had no limits, you know. So we would travel to the coast, and that's a part of, well, part of Sarajevo, where in a burnt car, we're just pretending to travel to the coast, and we relied on our imagination, you know. And being a kid, you don't, in the war, you don't even get to be naughty, mischievous, because you cannot skip classes, and your parents are only worried about whether you're gonna, about your safety, obviously. So, as I said, we would throw rocks at Bill because he's just a guy who's there for another week, and he's gonna leave. He's never gonna tell our parents, obviously. And then all of a sudden, this guy shows up again and again, and like he goes and he comes back. And the first moment when we actually talked to each other was the day when this special bond was created. The friendship, you have just said that, the friendship that lasts till like now, obviously. And that, you asked me the importance of that bond and friendship in the war. You know, when people ask me about my childhood, I always tell them that it was the most horrific period of my life for the obvious reasons, but the most important and the most beautiful period of my life as well, because it shaped me into who I am today, and that special bond between people that existed back then, you know, is something that kept us alive, all of us, you know, so.
That thing you were just talking about, this, because this bond you hear people speak about, it's very, very, very deep. It's not, it's one of the things I long for in my life constantly ever since going to Sarajevo, and it's not always easy to find. I can see these people once every 2 years or 10 years, and it will be immediately like family. It's just a thing. It's not gonna, it's just, when you go through that stuff together, you know, that's very powerful, and I felt it immediately with so many people. And it gave me strength and love, and you know, it was incredible for me.
Can I just add something, which is very important? Obviously, for a teenager, we didn't have food, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have water, and like necessities. But I was a 12-year-old kid who loved dancing and music. That was my power. And when we became friends, like that day, literally, when we spoke for the first time, and that bond was created, we would get together every like 2 or 3 days whenever it was possible, because Bill was my window into the world. He would tell me stories about what's going on in the world. He would tell me stories, he would answer my questions. And that was of unbelievable significance for me as a teenager to, you know, to survive. So I kind of felt like I was a part of you know, the world, like Europe, and that was very important for me.
A really cool thing she did, I don't know if you've been mentioning this, is that these guys were a part of a group, a dance group called Sweet Kiss. Not these guys, her and her friends. And, right?
Sweet Kiss, yes, and then we added from Frontline.
Oh, nice, nice.
Nice.
And so she would, they would, to dance, they needed power, they needed music. So they would hook up a bicycle, you know, to like a battery and pump the bike.
Yeah,
like,
one person is pedaling while the rest
Right.
of us are like
Dancing.
practicing and dancing, and yeah, we were creating our own choreos, but the problem was, excuse me, the reason why we would do that is because we felt like we needed to do something for our parents and our, you know, neighbors, and that was our kind of contribution to, you know, our way to fight the war, because once you see your parents and like elderly. Happy and smiling, you think, okay, our mission is accomplished, you know. So that's what we did.
Because of the bond that Bill formed with her, he shot some beautiful archival footage of her at 12 years old, living through the war, talking about what it's like to be in the war. And what that enabled me to do as a filmmaker now, how many years, 25 or 27 years later, was interview President Clinton, who has a lot of regrets over how long it took them to get involved. And you hear him talking about the circumstances of the geopolitics, why he couldn't get involved. He couldn't get a coalition in Europe. And he talks about his personal frustrations. But what we get to do in the movie, because of Bill's archive, is I interview Bill Clinton and ask him a question about how did it feel not being able to get involved. And then we instantly cut to Alma talking about her experience in that archival footage of what it's like then. So it's rare that you get to see a president talking about his personal struggle and the ramifications of the decisions and seeing an instant reaction to that, jumping back in that time.
Nina, thank you very much. This is something I think is very important also that we discuss here, an aspect of the film that Christiane Amanpour, who unfortunately can't be with us today, she refers to rather late in the film, but she's reflecting about how her time being in Sarajevo was the beginning of her understanding what is fake news, but also she's talking about this fact, what does it take to have a turning point in history? In this case, she's referring to Srebrenica, and that only then, even though everyone knew, started to act. So something that you've just explained, I would like to show this particular clip where she's reflecting on that, and then maybe all of us coming to this very moment. When do we really change? This is a question that comes up in your movie a few times. Also in the Bono interview when he says, well, why don't we learn something? But let's take a look, please, if possible, from technical Yeah, so the thing that I found interesting is that, I can't really put a finger on it, maybe 5, 6 years ago, suddenly people in, you know, auctioners, you know, meetings would suddenly come up with words that I only knew from filmmaking background. Turning point, storytelling, narration, everything trying to analyze what makes an individual change his or her behavior, point of view, or thought process. This is something what I think your film is very much like a case study about, like how can you change? And this is what Christiane Amanpour relates to. My question to all of you, be it from a music point of view, be it from an artist point of view, filmmaking point of view, where are the differences between filmmaking, news production, and maybe a music experience in a concert that, you know, can has this effect? And is it something we can plan, or how, what is your point of view on that?
What do you mean by, I'm sorry, can you, I don't fully understand the question.
Okay, so I think what we have today in a situation 2023, that we all are in a situation that is very, very drastic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people of recently have started to scientifically look into what is called transformation processes. So trying to understand what makes a person change his or her behavior. And very often, it can be this life-changing concert, it can be a film, it can be a book that I read. And this, I think, is very much also the topic of this session, that we learned something from your film. But I wanted to have your view on that.
I was not talking now about my personal experience of transformation, but I was talking about the transformation of the profession that I represent, and this is a journalism. Respectable Christiane Amanpour has spoken so often about how journalism in Bosnia and Herzegovina, how reporting from Bosnia and Herzegovina changed the style of war journalism, changed the principles of war journalism. Why? Because it was the year of 92, 93. That means the satellites are already existed. And the truth about the war in Bosnia could be visible, could be seen immediately around the world. That is point one. But point two, the witnesses of the war, foreign correspondents, they were able to see so tremendous volume of the destruction that at a certain moment they started to think, where is the border between objectivity or neutrality? And I think this is the most ethical question. Should we need to be neutral all the time? And what is neutrality? Speaking about world cataclysms and world situations like this, or like war in Ukraine, which is so obviously unfair. Should we be neutral, or should we be objective? And what is objectivity in terms of journalism, in terms of war reporting? And this is why both Christiane Amanpour or Martin Bell from BBC or Ed Vulliamy, who was a very important person in world journalism, all of them say, if you're neutral, then you give the same amount of seconds to a woman who has been raped in a concentration camp and to a bastard who did it. But if you are objective, then you speak by facts. And the facts are what I told you previously about all of these figures from Sarajevo. So I think this is...
Vesna, if
it's
I
televised.
should say maybe just a few sentences, because I'm really proud today. With us is a journalist for Televisa Echo Mexico, that girl is with us, and she is our best woman during our marriage. She was a journalist during the war in Sarajevo, and we pick up her camera, it's camera origin from Televisa, and make shooting of our wedding. Without that girl, we have no that material for this documentary. And I'm asking you, please.
Kasia Widerko, Joanna Kasia Widerko, she's somewhere here.
Please, Kasia, just stand up.
May I give her a microphone?
We do have microphones here.
Kasia is
we have.
Christiane, Amanpour, or Hispano.
Can I just give a little bit of context? In our film, one of the most beautiful moments is their wedding. We have the footage of the wedding, and this is what he's referencing, that hopefully if you see the film, you'll see why it's so important in the film.
Do you want to comment on that?
Yes.
I'm so proud
Please,
of...
Kasia.
Kasia.
Kasia is origin from Poland. She studied and graduated in Mexico, and Kasia very well understand what is the ideology behind the war in Bosnia. And that's the reason I'm asking her to...
Yeah, we covered a lot of wars, of course, but the most deeply moved war in our life is, of course, Sarajevo. These almost 4 years of the siege, very, very, very deep, and very, very deep relationship with our friends from Sarajevo. And this fantastic humor and this intensity of your lives, wow, it's something unique in the world. In the world, after we covered Afghanistan and Ukraine now and so many wars, but Sarajevo is probably the most deep and terrifying war in the last 40 years, probably. So I'm so proud to be here with you, and I can't wait to see, to watch your beautiful film this night with you. So proud, so absolutely happy to be with you today in Berlin. 20 years after.
I think there's a pretty simple answer to your question about can you make a change and how do you make a change? And as a filmmaker or a musician or a storyteller, or even when Vesna was talking about as a journalist, you can either humanize or demonize people.
Yeah.
If you humanize them, you care, and you hopefully stop a way of thinking that is hurtful. If you demonize them, you become apathetic, and you become part of a conspiracy of horror. It's very simple.
I would like to involve also you, the audience, if you have comments, questions to the team who's made the documentary, but maybe also you want to share similar experiences of what was being expressed here in the way of how you've made this documentary, but also of how you experienced the siege and how you're looking back from today to those days. If there are any questions, comments, please raise your hands. We have microphones. I don't see anyone, but I wanted to remain for a moment to what you said. I think Bill earlier also mentioned this special connection, the fact that Bono agreed to come to Sarajevo. If he were a band from another background, maybe he wouldn't have. I wanted to ask you what you feel like, whether as a filmmaker, artist, news journalist, whether you choose this side or that side, humanizing or demonizing, how much does it have to do with your personal upbringing, background, whether you've experienced something similar or not?
For me, that is, I think it does. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I don't know how far we want to go back into, you know, personal lives, but I grew up in a really bad situation, and it prepares you for, it's about like trauma. Trauma, unfortunately, I got very used to at a young age, so I became very I think that when you go through the situations like this, you become very empathetic to other people, and then that is a way that you become a filmmaker, or you know, or a writer, or a filmmaker, or a good journalist. And on that good journalism thing, I want to point out that concept of objectivity, or giving both sides equal time, is like the freaking devil in the journalism. Is this thing where you give both sides equal time just because it's supposed to be fair, as opposed to, if you're looking at something that's right or wrong, if it's wrong, it's wrong. I've done so many talks where someone tells me about the history of this region. I'm like, that's fascinating, but that guy is killing that kid. So that is wrong. It's just wrong. So part of me, I know I'm getting all mixed up with the question, but is that I think change, when I go do talks about Bosnia, I talk about change as being something, don't think you can change a whole country with the music, or don't think you can change, just change the thing in your house, or your street, or your community. Maybe that's enough, and enough of these bubbles connect to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and we have a better world. Don't always have to reach for the big picture, you know? That's how I see it.
Just
yeah.
few words. If you gave, as a principle in journalism, chance for both sides, let's say, to say what is their true, or that's the first step to the relativization of the whole thing. And from journalists, it's huge expectation when they're covering the story about war, their war story, to recognize what is the ideology, what is the deeply behind of conflict. If we don't touch that side, we will make relativization. That's the, for the victims, that's an unmoral act. And that's the reason, that's why this movie make us again in the war. We pull the picture from the war, and it's really stressful time. We tried to did our best, but it's stressful time for the people, they survive. And you know, when you have chance to be with all of these guys, to feel like a movie star, you are always thinking, I'm not movie star, I'm witness. We are witnessing what's happened. According to tell the story for the others, to thinking every day, because nobody will solve our situation in the future. We have to be the part of decision, part of thinking, part to be included and never give up, because we were very self-conscious during the war that we are on better side of civilization. You know, you are in the city, you are in the siege city, we met each other, we are talking with journalists, they are going to the another side, coming to the city, and they should solve situation. And today's, when we are looking what's happened in Ukraine, we have to strongly stand behind that people. Behind that people, because they are fighting for our future, our European future. We are angry as Sarajevo or Bosnian people because the bureaucracy of our continent not answer on right way to protect their own values, because we share the same values, and we have to fight for that values. It's very hard through the history to become this moment of the human rights, and it should be crashed in a minute. And that's the reason we have to care about every day especially these days, these months and years.
And in the context of the title of this film, which is Kiss the Future, it could be also seen as the call of all of us, or appealing of all of us, to think about the future in that way. To think about the future, that history should not be repeated anymore, that we must learn from history. And maybe it's interesting, but 2 days ago we were walking around Berlin on one of these walking tours, and on every corner you see the evidence that history is repeating. And what happened in Berlin in another night in 1961, this happened in Sarajevo in April '92. That means the barrier which emerged literally over the night. And this is why when we think about Kiss the Future as a call, it should be seen as some kind of a warning, as Senat says, as some kind of a warning of what we're going to leave behind us, also for the next generation, and how we are going to protect the values that we achieved so far, also including.
Yeah. I think we have a
Wait.
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
One moment, microphone is coming.
Yeah, you actually kind of answered my question already just now, because I just wanted to say that probably quite a few of us listened to the concert back then and taped it off the radio, and I remember thinking something like this should never happen again. And now we are all, you're just saying, like, the history, what does it teach us? And you know, and I just probably just want to say thank you for actually making this movie and going back into all your memories and into the archives, and you know, make it all come alive again. And yeah, I just wanted to know, like, wasn't that terribly difficult and frustrating at times to see this being so important now again? And like, is it not frustrating that history actually doesn't teach us something, really?
I just want to say one line that is on all of our minds that made this movie. There's a line from Gino. He's the guy who did Hair for 1,000 Days in Sarajevo. And he says in this movie, I think it answers your question. He says, you know, a song didn't change the world, it didn't change the war.
Stop the war.
Yeah, but if people stop, start participating, stopping insanity, insanity will stop. It's the participation is what he was trying to get at. And I think that is, if people start participating more actively, then maybe we will show our evidence of changing history. You know, I think that's what Gino's getting at.
Thank you.
How do all of you see the specifics of cinema being able to be the school of emotions, if I may call it like that? So you've all very generously shared your experiences that you lived through during the siege. And what it did to you, what it taught you. Bill, also you referred to your upbringing when you were a child. Now, this is something about, you know, how do you give this from one generation to another? I'm picking up on what Vesna just said. Maybe you learn it from your parents, maybe from your friends at school. My question, though, is where do you see the power of cinema, of conveying this very emotion that really can make, you know, the one movie that you're watching change? Yes, please.
I just would like to tell you something about the power of cinema. I don't know if I spoke about me skiing in the movie. Did I?
No, but I saw it in the archival footage.
So anyway, I had a video camera during the war, and I started making some stupid sketches, short films, funny films. And my biggest love in life, apart from movies and music, is skiing. So obviously I couldn't go and ski. You know, I couldn't go on a mountain. We were in siege. And me and, well, winter '93, there was a lot of snow in Sarajevo, and there was no traffic. But there was a lot of shooting. And me and a friend of mine, we decided to take our skis and go out and ski. And I asked another friend to film us. So he did. And I had 2 VCRs, and I edited the footage. And there was a lot of gunfire and shelling in the background. And I removed that sound, and I put Van Halen's Jump. And all of a sudden, you see 2 guys with sunglasses skiing, you know. You don't hear it's war. And then also I saw, during the war, I saw a movie by Wim Wenders called Until the End of the World, which was about this guy who made a machine for recording dreams. And then I realized I recorded my dream with this video camera. So that was the power of cinema for me, you know.
Sorry, go ahead, Vesna.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
And if you allow me, I would just say a few words to the power of the theater. Because apart from music, or apart from journalism, apart from cinema, there were also a flourishing theater scene under the siege of Sarajevo, which was called Theater Under the Siege, of course. And many theater directors, there's Haris Pašović, Dino Mustafić, Pierre Žalica, all of them are very famous today as directors, but they just made their theater plays in a very cold theater halls or in the basements or in some, let's say, sheltered places for the theater. And I must say that people of Sarajevo, ordinary people, so women, men, they just risked their lives to attend a theater play, which was usually at noon or at noon, at 1 p.m., usually with the candlelights, but with the real actors, because everyone who dealt with the art in some way, trying to do its or her best in a production of art under the siege. So I think we should also celebrate the theater under the siege. And speaking about figures, because I'm a journalist, 57 different theater plays and more than 2,000 of playings.
Whoa. Thank you, Vesna. And sorry for forgetting theater, even though we are here in one of Berlin's most famous theaters, so I'm very grateful for your correction. Do you want to add something?
I just want to say something about Ninette and I, in the thinking of this film, is I think we think the same in this way, is that film is very powerful, but you don't want to preach in a film. It's dangerous. So you want to create an experience of feeling and then walk away from your audience. Like, let them just each individual get your own thing out of this. And that's very powerful because it empowers you to think, not the filmmakers think for you. And I think that that's what we were going for as an overall feeling when you walk out of this.
This is a very nice bridge to a question that is also on my mind. Looking back at the film, there is a very crucial moment prior to this big moment of the concert, everyone happy and everything, you know, falling into place. So with the scene we began with, along the way, Bill had tried to bring you two, with the help of many others, to Sarajevo before, and they said, no, too dangerous, we can't do it right now. So instead, you portray this prequel of having eyewitnesses. You interview people from Sarajevo, and this is part of the concerts in Stockholm, for instance.
Oh yeah, the satellites, right.
The satellites tour.
Dennis was the Stockholm.
Okay, so.
That was, well, beginning of this story with you two. Bill did these satellite links with you two in 93, was it?
Yeah. Very interesting moment in the film, because I think it was too much, in a way, like you've said it, in this particular concert in Stockholm, where somehow the audience was put off, maybe because of being educated.
Can I just give them context? Because
Please,
I think if you haven't seen it, it's probably difficult to follow what's going on right now.
Please.
So the first time that Bill approached Bono and did this interview or conversation, Bono, it's a fascinating interview because you see who Bono is as a man. In the beginning of the interview, he's very complacent. You see he doesn't really want to do it. He's kind of distracted. And then once he starts to recognize the intent and the background and where Bill has come from, he becomes more and more and more engaged. And he finally says, I'd like to go to Sarajevo. I'd like to dedicate a song to Sarajevo. I'd like to play a concert in Sarajevo. And so Bill's instant reaction is, well, I can help you do that. Didn't have the resources, just I have, I'm going to help you do it. And so obviously they couldn't go to Sarajevo during the siege because of the danger and they could be killed. So during that period of time, they were doing the Zoo TV tour. And during the Zoo TV tour, they had massive screens in the concert, and they would stop the concert and they would do boxing matches in the United States or news feeds from different places of the world or selling products, jewelry in the middle of the night. So they had this idea, Bill had this idea, and working with Ned, who's the producer here, the video producer for U2 at the time, to beam in Bill talking to people in Sarajevo during the siege. So they would stop the concert for 50,000 people, and Bill would be in Sarajevo in a dark room with one or two people, and Bono would be on the other side, and the people who were in Sarajevo would, in talking to Bill, explain what they were living through in the war. So that was the context of these satellite links 4 years before U2 actually did the concert there, as a way for them to bear witness, as a way for them to shed light as to what was happening, and as a way for them to, as we talked about before, humanize the people in the situation that was on the ground. So sorry, that was the context for what these guys are talking about.
Just to add, for Bono, he gave us the chance to say our stories to the world. But when we are thinking about actors, world-famous actors, about world-famous musicians, world-famous people, you will find, except their enormous popularity on the globe, they are humans. What Bono did in the first or second month in Ukraine, he and the Edge playing underground in the Kiev, risking their life, but they were there. What did the Matt Damon or Ben Affleck, world-famous people, they find out to support this documentary, to tell the story to the world. And that's the main important. It's not to be just actor, just football player. You have to be a man, or you have to be humankind, and recognize that you have to give yourselves to the people to help them. That's the more important. We have a lot of stars, but they are stars for themselves. These stars, about we are talking about, that's the human beings for all of us.
Thank you, Zenat. So, unless there is a burning last question, if so, please raise your hand. And yeah, there is someone.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I have a question for Nenad. Growing up in Slovenia, how did you perceive the war, since it's relatively close and we used to be, I mean, Slovenia used to be the same country as Bosnia. So what was your experience and people close to you?
Yeah, well, I was born in Ljubljana because my father was finished studies there and was working for IBM, even though he was Croatian. And so then I lived in Croatia till I was 10 years old, and then moved to the United States. And so I went back to the war when it started to happen. I mean, I went back to Yugoslavia or Croatia when the war started to happen because all my family was there except for my mother and my brother at the time. So my experience is, unfortunately, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, I was 21, 20 years too old. We went out and partied every night. We went and drank and had fun and felt like we were, I mean, I think they talk about this in Beirut. You kind of feel like this idea that something may happen to you the next day, so you want to go out and enjoy, and it made it so much more fun. I had some difficult experiences where I had a girlfriend who lived in the mountains who I went to see, and actually I'm not going to go into that. But I had to go through some checkpoints during the war, and having a Serbian mother, and I had some famous people in my family. I had a minister of finance, chief of police, engineers. My family is quite known in Yugoslavia. There was a couple times when I had some very dangerous situations crossing checkpoints because I went to go see my grandmother who was in Serbia. And the only thing I can tell you is you can't imagine it's happening. You're in a sense of disbelief almost all the time. That's the only thing I can say is it's a sense of disbelief that you don't recognize the world around you.
Thank you very much. I think we are coming to an end, and I would simply like to thank all of you for sharing your experiences and for hopefully empowering not only me, but also you, the audience, and later on everyone who's seeing your film, that even if circumstances are not picture perfect, try to find your empowerment. You've all explained this very, very nicely, and I feel empowered. I hope you do too. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.